compared to last year at 102. Equal really with 2022 at 112 homicides. But as you see, the biggest number, most murderous year ever was 2021 after around the COVID years, where we whopped 151. And if you harken back a little bit to 2014, you see where we're at 63. I think a city our size should be around 45 to 50 historically, given other cities our size. John? For whatever reason this year, the most murderous month was March with 15, and you see the year before was May at 16. And I call attention to November and December for 2023, where those 2 months, which are normally somewhat peaceful, were much higher, but this year we did see a little bit slowing there. Next. Zip codes. We always talk about 70805, 70802. Start with 2022. It's a little bit of an odd year. 70816, and I'll show you a map where that is. John, if you go back. 70816 had 19% of all the homicides, but consistently for at least my 16 years, 70805, 70802 have been the two biggest areas that have seen the most murder. 70802 has the last couple of years consistently beat 05 by 1 or 2 murders, but they're pretty much neck and neck. When we first started the BRAVE movement, we looked at 70805, we were able to decrease murders in 70805, and then we saw some displacement into 02, and that somewhat remained. And you see the zip code areas for 05, 02, and 70816. And those are where our most murders occur. Hours of the day, your mom told you never go out after midnight, nothing happens good. 2 o'clock in the morning, at 9, and also 10 o'clock at night. So those are the two most hot spots for time-wise. And then next slide, the homicides by day. In 2023, Tuesday and Friday, but this year, for some reason, Monday was the most active day, and it was by far a lot. Who's being killed? Look at the ages by age 26 to 39, 18 to 25. So mainly younger folks. Percentage black or 88%, and percentage male 86%. That has somewhat remained consistent, although we've seen some increase in Hispanics. Also call your attention to the juvenile percentage. It's 9%. Earlier in the year was 12. Toward the end of the year, juvenile homicides had slowed down some. But that still is a number that we need to keep mind of. That's way too much of a percent for a small age group of kids that are either being killed or killing. But these are murdered victims here. What I wanted to show is the domestic violence here. When we had COVID, we all warned that we thought really bad things were going to happen when COVID came, particularly with regard to domestic violence offenses, domestic violence homicides. Look at the COVID year of 2021. We had 36 domestic violence or intimate partner related homicides. We are down significantly from them, although 10 is way too many. This is a crime that is completely preventable and should never happen. This year, the biggest difference in our number has been the number of murders outside of the city and in the parish. If you look at the longer lines for the Baton Rouge Police Department, they're up 4%, which is 3 homicides. That's so give or take. But the bigger increase happened outside in the parish. So you would expect, as our parish grows and moves outward, that you would see some increase in homicides in the parish itself. And that surely was true this year with an increase of 8, but a percentage of 42. I want to call you back to a couple of years. Look at where I have BRAVE impact. That's when we had the program called BRAVE, where we first started the group violence reduction model. In those years, look at the numbers. We were at 66, 63. The best numbers we've had ever in a long, long time. Again, we still should be at 50 or 45. And then we got away from that. We changed the administration. We got away from the grant because of issues that were happening with the grant. And then we picked up a little bit, but still went back to 63 in 2017, which is good. And I'm going to see a slide next that I'll get to in a minute. But I can remember July 1st of 2017. The news media is saying, man, we have really good news this year. The murders are so down this year. Everything is going great. And we say, just shut up, please, because whenever we talk about it, something happens. Then all of a sudden, July 5th, Alton Sterling comes. Followed Alton Sterling came the Great Flood. And then after that came COVID. And look at the numbers as they increase on the right-hand side. But if you could go to the next slide, John. Look in the middle, look at 2016 in the middle of your screen. Go all the way to the right where it says 25. So it's July 1st, halfway through the year, Baton Rouge had 25 murders. Had we just doubled that, we would have been at 50, where you would really want to be. But it didn't work out. It got a little bit higher. And then as we got out of, I think, some of the structure we had, we started seeing an increase in homicide. And then other things happened with the flood, displacement, but mainly COVID. And now coming out of COVID, we're not decreasing quite as much as others are decreasing coming out of COVID. Next. Gun violence. So this is murders by the year. Overwhelming amount of people killed in Baton Rouge are killed by gun violence. Nothing unusual, given that it's 89% on any given year. This year, past year, 92%. Next one. This is all shots fired. So last year, 2024, we had 5,199 shots fired that are reported. So shots fired reported are shot spotter, which we have around 12 square miles, or people calling in shots are being fired. Overall, only about 16% of United States citizens call in shots fired because they're afraid they don't want police coming through their house. So overwhelming number of these come from shot spotter sirens. But look below in 2024, although we had that many shots, fortunately or unfortunately, we had only 328 non-fatal shootings, and that is a bullet to a body where blood was drawn compared to the murders that you saw at 113. So pretty much tripled the amount of non-fatal shootings. Important thing about non-fatal shootings are that leads to your next murder. Someone just got shot, they knew who shot at them, they're going to go back and shoot them, or they're going to go back and try to get the guy that they missed or just hurt. So that's a big deal that we really need to pay a lot more focus and a lot more attention to, which is extremely important. And I know the mayor and the chief have that in their mind. 9 of the 12 months in 2024 were at or below a 5-year shooting with injury, and 6 of the 12 months are below. So it's somewhat good news that we're moving in somewhat of the right direction, at least in that category. As you see from this slide, although the shootings look like we're coming closer toward the end of the year of 2024, where the number of shootings and shots fired and the homicides have declined. Obviously, we would like to keep that from the beginning of the year, this year to the end. I think thus far we've had 2 homicides so far this year. Zip codes by non-fatal shootings, exactly the same as fatal shootings. It's 05, it's 02, it's 70807, 70816. It's the same zip codes over and over again. That tells us this is where we have to spend our resources, our money, our police, and you'll see where these are on the zip code maps. Everybody's familiar. 70802 is right by LSU, Highland Road. 705 right above that. That's our 2 big top spots. So a little comparison to New Orleans. As you've seen in the news, New Orleans recently has had declines in homicides and shots fired over the past 3 years. The question is why? We'd like to know and like to study that. I think we need a lot more time to give them time to see what's going on there. But you can see we're on par with the number of homicides and shootings with guns between Baton Rouge and Orleans. Although East Baton Rouge is the most populous of the parishes, Orleans still has more homicides than we do, although they have declined. They've declined at a greater rate than Baton Rouge has, and that's something that we need to work on. So if you look in the bracketed areas, NOLA's 2024 fatal and non-fatal shootings have double-digit declines from 2020 to 2023, and East Baton Rouge saw increases in 3 of the last 5. So somewhat going in different directions, although Baton Rouge is still below Orleans, and we should be doing a lot better than, in my opinion, than Orleans, but that's something that we need to work on. Best news of the year will be in this category. Still not great news, but Fatal overdoses over the past several years have doubled the homicide rate since 2020. And it does not get quite as much attention as others. And you see the line, Baton Rouge is the overdoses compared to the homicides. The red are the overdoses, blue are the homicides, way over the limit over homicides. But look at the trend from 2020 to 2024, significantly going down. The year of our most popular, most murderous year, 2021, at 151. That year we had 311 people die of overdose deaths, overwhelmingly fentanyl overdose deaths. But look at the decline from that year till this year. Attribute a lot of that to a lot of data work that we've done to see where people are overdosing. A lot of outreach. Tanja Miles has done a lot of outreach with Set Free, Narcan being used by all different types of agencies, giving people a second chance. So I think we should be proud of that effort. It's probably the biggest percentage decrease that I've seen in the country, and we are back on par with where we should be, although way out of line with where we want our community to be. And unfortunately, not good news for people whose kids have already died and passed. Next. So who's dying by overdoses? 50% African American, 41 white, fairly close, overwhelmingly male. And look at the age group, 26 to 39, 40 to 49, not necessarily a younger person's game, but when it first started, it was much younger. Now it has increased in age. And the days of the week, really no rhyme or reason, but Saturdays seem to be a little bit more than others, not by much compared to Thursday and Monday. And then the month, for some reason this year, June, or 2024, June was the month. Years before, April and November were the deadliest. Again, no rhyme or reason, but things that we try to keep track of. And the time that someone is found dead of a fatal overdose, 6 o'clock in the morning is the peak. And we believe that that's because families are waking up and they're finding their child in the morning or their loved one in the morning. Not that it really means much, but it is a stat to take a look at. Zip codes, look at the same zip codes again, but in this one, a slightly different, 70816. And can we get to where else that is? Look at the bottom. 70816 is right there at the corridor of airline. And go back, John. Airline and I-12, Sherwood and I-12, hotel, motel, we see a lot of overdoses that are there. And those are the high spots that we have in Baton Rouge. John? And this is where fentanyl became the deadliest drug in East Baton Rouge in 2019, where we were alarmed when we had 10, 12, 20 people overdosing from fentanyl. As you can see, it's just taken off, but now has become on the decline here, fortunately, recently. Overwhelmingly, if you die an overdose death in Baton Rouge, it's going to be fentanyl or fentanyl with some other type of drug. Rare that you see in cocaine overdose completely by cocaine. Everything seemed to be laced with fentanyl in one form or another, whether it's pressed pills, you name it. Fentanyl is what's being sold. And whereas in the past we may have had one or two opioid or heroin dealers, everybody deals fentanyl now because that's what's wanted. They don't want it unless it has fentanyl in it. And the sad thing is that the people that use fentanyl want the fentanyl that's the strongest, that can give us the highest high right before death doorstep and be able to come back down. Unfortunately, those that are recovering from addiction cannot handle that dosage and oftentimes take what they don't really know what they're taking and overdose and die. So that is problematic. Budgetary issues, it's the one that I really do not want to talk about. As you know, I've sounded the horn of the issues that we're having with money in the office. So our office is funded 50% by the city parish, about $8 million, about 20% from the state of Louisiana. The state gives us $50,000 a year per assistant DA at the rate of, I think, 50 assistant DAs. They do not pay for anything over and above $50,000 for an assistant DA. I cannot hire a lawyer for $50,000, can't pay for medical, health care, retirement. So we have to find money to pay for that in addition to that. The other 10% comes from self-generated revenues, and then small amount from grants, a lot of donated money. So we really have been behind for years. So we've looked at other jurisdictions around Louisiana. Baton Rouge, as you guys know, since the hurricane and the flood, that Baton Rouge is the most populous area served, and you see the number there. Jefferson Parish being number 2, Orleans being number 3. And I'll call your attention to the 9th district, that's Rapides, down at the bottom, where we'll have a comparison to that. So although we're the most populous, we have around 56, 58 assistant DAs. Jefferson has 70 to 75. I think Orleans has 80. So we're way behind in just the basic amount of ADAs, not to mention the staff that has to go with that, the analysts, the victims assistance counselors that go with that. So we're far behind. And we've been trying to catch up for years, and we have been trying to catch up, but just not enough. Look at the total revenue spent. So 53% came from city parish. Our per capita local appropriation is consistent with Rapides, which is 1/3 the size of Baton Rouge. And we receive 51% and 10% less than parish government than Orleans and Jefferson do, respectively. So we're just seeking to get on par with that, to have an office that can keep up. Kind of similar information and population-wise. So I think it's the same. You'll see the bracketing, expenditure and revenue. And here we are, EBR, and Jefferson is 51% more, Orleans 10.5% more with the budgets that they have compared to us. So this is where we receive 4% less per citizen, per voter than any other DA's office. Historically, again, it's been an issue. This is not a blame on any administration whatsoever. It's been historic since I've been around, and I've been around the office for 40-something years, and we've just been kind of chronically underfunded, but now we are the most populous city, particularly given our homicide rate. It's hard to catch up, and the backlogs are really killing us, and I think negatively impacting our ability to do criminal justice. And you'll see here the consequence of underfunding. We end the year last year with a deficit, as did the 18th, which is our neighboring parish, whereas the other offices have at least remained in the green. So at this point, we received our budget at the end of December a month ago. So it's really hard for me to plan next year when I don't know what my budget is until December. There are no raises at all whatsoever to the office this past year, none that are projected for this year because we just don't have the funds. And it's hard to project what we're going to do the following year with the money that we have this year, which is standstill or less than last year. Again, no fault being blamed on anyone in particular. It's just that I think that we really need to look as a parish of where we spend our money, how we spend it, how's it allocated, what's the number one priority, should it be prioritized. Look, if I had a chance and there was the money tree and we could shake it and money would come out, I would withdraw this tax off the ballot as quickly as I could. I just don't see that happening based on the numbers. I think that the governor, just promoting from coach to mayor to the governor, he will do all he can, and the council has been very helpful for us. I think they will do all they can. I just don't see them making up a deficit of around $10 million to put us on par with Orleans and Jefferson, to where if we had a budget of $20 million, like they do, $21 million and $24 million, that we would have an office that we can compete and have justice done quickly and fairly. And while at the same time, if the tax were to go forward, if the tax were to pass, this cannot be a lopsided. I don't want this to be lopsided for the district attorney's office to have all of the money and not acknowledge that the public defender and the courts need money, because I cannot operate my office without a legitimate constitutional public defender and a court that actually works. So just as bad as I am underfunded, so is the public defender, and we go against them and work with them all day long on the majority of our cases. So if I'm able to pass the tax, if that happens, I would suggest and ask that the mayor and the city council consider the millions of dollars that come to me being rededicated to the public defender to make them on par with what their obligations are with me and or the court system. And that way I think that we would bring East Baton Rouge Parish up to where the other two jurisdictions are, and we would see a better system of justice. So I know I ran through that real quickly because of the issues with the computers, and I'd love to answer any questions that anyone may have. Yes, sir.
What type of tax are you proposing and how much is it?
Yeah, it's a property tax, unlike Tony Clayton's tax across the river, which was a sales tax. Tony's property tax would have really hurt a lot of businesses, so he chose to go for the sales tax. Here I chose for the property tax at $4 million, and the reason for that is that, as you saw, there's just an increase in the sales tax, and I didn't want to further hurt people with a sales tax, and decided that the property tax would be more equitable as best as I could figure, and that's the reason that we chose that path. Yes, sir.
Do you see the incorporation of St. George having any positive, negative, any effect at all on your office or on law enforcement in general?
I forgot to repeat the question. He said, do you see the does the incorporation of St. George have a positive or negative effect? I don't think that my office is not in the position we're in because of St. George. It's historically been there. So now we just have to figure out with St. George, Baker Central, Zachary, how much do they pay for the constitutional offices that serve them. So although they're City of St. George, I'm still the district attorney of the City of St. George. So they'll have to now pay their share for the constitutional office. But I still think I'm going to still be at the same position with not enough funds to do what I'm supposed to do. But I do not think it directly would affect that.
What impact is the lack of resources in having assistant DAs, et cetera, having on your ability to pursue people that have been, charged with, murder, attempted murder, all those crimes?
The question is, what's the lack of assistant DAs had to do with our ability to prosecute violent crimes? So I can tell you, Jeff Landry was the Attorney General. He had a lot of lawyers that worked for him. He became governor. Liz Murrow worked for Jeff Landry. She became the Attorney General. And Jeff Landry took a lot of lawyers from the Attorney General to the governor's office. Liz Murrow then took a lot of lawyers from my office. So everything rolled down, and I'm looking for someone to pick from, and I'm not sure where to pick from. But so they only picked 7 section chiefs that, combined around 140 years of service. So it took a big load off a big impact in the office. Also, 2 of my section chiefs became commissioners or somewhat judges in the 19th. So I lost a lot of folks very quickly. I have a lot of young folks that are catching up and learning. And, murders are the most difficult cases that we have, along with rape cases. They're hard to prosecute. And so it makes it very difficult to retain lawyers. So retaining lawyers is tough. Consistency, and me not being able to tell a lawyer that, look, I'm able to do this for you next year. Particularly when the lawyers are coming out of law school with a debt of $200,000 to $300,000. It's tough for them to plan their year. And when private practice makes, I start them off at $60,000. Private practice starts at $130,000. Hard to compete. But I can tell you that to each and every man and woman at the office, I have the hardest working guys and women that you'll ever see. They're dedicated. I am worried about their health. I see it in their eyes. I've seen it beginning of last year, which really tipped me over to go to the tax, because looking at them and listening to them saying, possible, when any chance to get a raise, any chance we're going to get some help in this section because we're behind. It's really frustrating and disheartening to look at these young kids and say, I'm trying, the cavalry's coming, it just hasn't come yet. So hopefully this will be it. It's the burden is going to be upon me to explain to the people why we need it. Why do you need another tax? Why is it going to cost you $60 more a year? I got it. I flip my tax bill over and I see it, and I'm wondering what I'm getting. How much money do the other places have? How much money do they have in surplus? How much I know that I do not, and how much public safety is needed, and what kind of job we could do with an office that is fully funded, and how the public would be much safer. And not only victims serve better, defendants serve better as well, because you do not want them coming back again. You want to make sure you take care of them firsthand and have them healthy and safe, because they do go back to their families. So that's where the frustration is now.
What's the backlog of cases, though?
It's hard to tell, but I think we have pending right now 20,000 cases, and I probably have over 230 murders of the 12,000. That's a general guess, not to include murders, not to include real violent, non-fatal shootings where someone's hurt really bad. So there's a lot.
Baton Rouge now has a new police chief, one that you're familiar with and worked with before, and accomplished a lot. Is that a good thing as well? And you think that'll be very helpful?
Well, we're talking about Jeff LaDuff, not a new chief, but a new. So yeah, I used to look like Jeff LaDuff. I used to be 6'2", good-looking, tan, and I just got beat down to 5'8" and white hair. So Jeff is one of my best friends in the world. He's an intelligent man. He's an extremely talented speaker, and I think he has the heart. I know he has the heart. He's the president of our Truce Board, which is the morphed from Brave. He works with these kids who are at risk, that are shooters and being shot at. He has the passion. He's done this for free for years. We've been in so many crime scenes together, and so I know what he's going to bring to the table. I think he's a policeman's policeman. I think the police are going to respect him. And I'm really looking forward to good things from him, Chief Morse, Sid Gautreaux. The Sheriff's Office Narcotics Street Crimes team have been kicking butt in Baton Rouge on fentanyl. And so you have people that are working out there very hard. You have Baton Rouge police officers that are working their tails off. There are 115 officers short. There are 100 sheriff's deputies short. I know the mayor wants to staff them. I'm not sure how quick, as good as your intentions are, you can staff them that quickly, but he's going to have a plan. And remember, when you staff up other agencies, you have to staff up DAs and public defenders as well. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Yes, ma'am.
What is the total dollar amount budgeted for payroll for your office, and how many employees is that, full-time and part-time?
So we have about 158 employees.
158?
Yes, ma'am. And what the city parish gives us is $8 million a year for everything, includes health care.
Well, what's your payroll budget for those 158
John?
employees?
It's in the ballpark of 9 to 10 million. We also
9 to
have
10 million?
9 to 10 million, but that doesn't include or consider the inordinate, amount of fringe benefits that we also have.
So 9 to 10 million for salaries only for 158 employees. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Also forgot to mention that, I know the mayor, Mayor Brum, with the election, it was indicated that she was soft on murder or crime. Look, I think we have to also help this new mayor, that a lot of crime, particularly murder, is way beyond what this man or woman can do. And I think a lot of it has to do with, has to do with education and where we are in our family, or lack of family, lack of communities. We really need to be mindful of that. So as good a job as anyone wants to do, we have to look at education. And I'm challenge you guys when soon the Baton Rouge Area Foundation, the DA's office, and the school board are coming out with a study through BRAF, where we have looked at 122,000 youngsters that have killed, have been killed, or been involved in violent defendants or victims. And we studied their entire school history, beginning with pre-K and early childhood education. When you see the study, you're going to say, this is what the problem is. And not only is this what the problem is, this is where you can fix the gaps in the services. And to me, it's going to take us a decade to 2 decades to fix that, plug those gaps. And I think that once Baton Rouge is able to plug those gaps in education, that you're going to fix the other problems that we're on all of the bad lists for. Sorry.
With the backlog that you have, 16 to 20,000 cases, if you get the additional money as a result of property tax, what do you see as far as the reduction within the over a 10-year period?
Yeah. So me and the gentleman met each other at the farmers market this weekend, and I forgot all about the question. So, so this is what the issue is. Why cases aren't moving along quick enough is that the lawyers have to be at court all day long for the most part. Judges are in court all day long. So judges and the group of us came up with the idea of, let's have commissioners, and let's take the mundane, routine things out of the regular district court judges' challenge and schedule, put them with the magistrate courts. Problem is that that's really a good idea. It can work. We just need more staff because now all of our attorneys in commissioners courts and district court, we need the ability with the additional ADAs to stay back in the office and work up the murder case, the rape case, your burglary case, to get it ready for trial, to answer ready, that I'm ready to go, and not judge, I don't have enough time because I'm too busy doing all of these other things. We don't have enough people. That's where it is. How many years it would take? Well, you know, so that would be really a guess, but my guess is 3 to 5 years where you would see some significant reduction. But I would also have to be with an asterisk. If you can tell me what the murder rate would be, I could judge a little bit better. If we keep skyrocketing, then that really hurts us. But if we're able to curb that murder rate, I think you'll see it come down a lot quicker. Yes, sir.
Did something happen about 2017 besides the flood and other things with the judicial system in terms of the release or lack of incarceration? Did anything dramatically happen there on the judicial end?
Are you talking legislatively when they had early release of prisoners? Yeah, I think that did happen that year. Actually, factually, those that were released early were released maybe 30 days to 6 months earlier, not a significant period of time. However, we did track the early releases, and overwhelmingly 50% of them are back again. So I think that as a state, we do a really bad job of getting prisoners on the back end when they're coming out. How can you help the prisoner on the back end so he doesn't come back in? We just pretty much release and let you go. And the other issue that Louisiana is compared to other places is that we generally are housing our prisoners in a parish prison run by a sheriff because they plead and they have credit for time served. They're gone and they're just released from the door versus a safe facility which can slow down. You have longer time. You can have a year-long release program. So that's two things that we really need to look at. Can you have these folks at the end of 6 months to a year, at the end of their term, brought somewhere else to be mentored by someone, get them a place to live, a vehicle, somewhere where you know in the first 14 days they're not going to fail because it's 14 days. And at that point they are set and they're going to come back or not come back. It's that concrete. So that is a significant issue. Did you?
Is it possible to get any additional money from the state of Louisiana?
The only additional money we can get from the state is if the governor just wanted to give us a bonus, but I doubt that'll happen. But we are going to ask the governor to give us some additional assistant district attorney warrants, like 10 to 14 more. But that would only be the baseline, $50,000 per that many. We would still have to come up with the money for all of the others. And then the secretaries, the analysts that go with them. Because remember now, crime is completely different than it was back when I started with fingerprints. That's what a jury would ask, did you fingerprint? Now it's, did you fingerprint, did you DNA, did you get his cell phone, did you take his social media? That all takes people, and everything is now password protected, and it's all technology, it's analysts, and it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot more money.
You mentioned this morning on the radio something about changes in probable cause for pat downs and things like that, attributable to changes in our concealed carry laws. Can you expand on what roadblocks that's putting on checking things out? So you can walk down the street now and you can conceal carry. In the past, you could not, and officers were able to stop and frisk. Now the burden is obviously a lot higher, where you just can't stop someone and frisk them if you notice a bulge in a shirt. So I haven't seen a big difference so far at this point, but that is a concern to me, that officers are not allowed in certain circumstances to stop and frisk. It's really up to the officer to articulate that. What scares me the most is machine guns, those guns that have converted to be automatic weapons where with the pull of a trigger, 60 rounds can be fired. We've seen them. They've doubled every year for the last 3 years. It's a $30 device that's either dropped in a weapon, a large weapon, or put on the back of a weapon, and it makes it fully automatic. And you can see and hear when that goes off. It's extremely brutal. If I'm trying to kill you and I spray, it's going to hit everyone that's around, including maybe myself as a shooter. And we've seen that, and that has proliferated over the years, much more so than ghost guns have, which is a separate type of issue. But again, I think we have to really try to focus on non-fatal shootings to stop the next shooting, and that takes manpower. I know the council is looking at dedicating money to that, but again, without the manpower, it's going to be really hard to do. So,
mentioned that Jefferson Parish has a budget that's 50% greater than EBR. Where do they get that additional money?
From their apparently more wealthier parish than we are. I'd also want to note that not only Jefferson Parish has more money, I think they average around 20 to 24 homicides a year, and we have 100. So that's a really big difference. They get to slow down and take time and have a different system of justice than otherwise. Yes, sir.
Is there a way to work with the other partners, I should say, in the system where we get the right amount of money for police, your office, public defenders, lump it into one proposal for property tax rather than you do it one year, they do it another year?
So his question was, can there be a unified approach to raising money for police, DA, public defender, court? I think the answer is yes, but like a public defender cannot be on the same tax as me. They have to be different. But you know, we need a prison. We need a juvenile detention facility. Yes, I think in a great world we could probably put one tax together somehow. That's above my pay grade, but I'm sure there is. There's a difference between building and mortar versus funds for salaries. So I'm not sure the technical part of that, but surely you'd rather do one than piecemeal.
You get a lot more support.
Yeah, and I think for me, my point with mine is I surely hope that mine helps the public defender as well and the courts at the same time. But again, we're going to eventually have to build a new prison or a new juvenile detention center because that's just something that has to happen. Yes, ma'am.
How can we fight this fentanyl problem? I mean, in your figures, it has
Yeah.
this mushroom. I don't know why.
So how can we fight the fentanyl problem? It's going to be fought in Washington. So unless and until we stop the fentanyl coming through the border, unless we stop the precursor chemicals coming from Russia, coming from China into Mexico to make the drugs, to bring them here, you're not going to stop it. I mean, you could say you're going to stop the demand, which is good, which we want to do, but until you stop the other countries from killing us. This is uniquely an American problem. China, Russia know that they're killing Americans, and they're doing it for a reason, and that's behind the whole thing. This is a uniquely American problem, and it's our solution. We have to start in Washington saying this has to stop, and hopefully that's going to happen. Anybody else? Thank you all. Appreciate it.